A very warm welcome to the participants of the Proteomics Advanced Winter School 2021. Presented by Proteomics Lab, Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay. Day 3, Mass Spectrometry-Based Proteomics. Lecture 3, MS Data Analysis by Mascot.
So we are discussing about sample preparation workflow for the mass spectrometry-based proteomics work. And as I have walked you through the different steps which are involved in doing the MS-based sample prep and followed by different steps involved. So we talked about how to take your cell or tissue lysate, run them on the gel, or also directly proceed for the in-solution digestion. Prepare the peptides, inject the sample, ionize them, separate them using mass analyzers. Different types are possible from hybrid and tribrid technologies. And then after injecting the sample, you have to wait for those gradient to complete and analyze their data using different type of search algorithms. What we have shown you was essentially this part of in-gel digestion followed by doing the zip tipping and running that sample on the LCMS. What I thought is also important to show you briefly about in-solution digestion, because we prefer mostly, as Dr. Shrikant also mentioned, in-gel digestion, sometimes you lose a lot of things because when you process things from the gel, you excise the band or spot or the regions of the protein, and then you process them multiple times. So during a lot of washing steps of the gel pieces, you will lose a lot of peptides. So if you can directly go for in solution, that's I think worth trying out. And let me just show you briefly about the in solution digestion, which is very similar to in gel, but there are beginning steps which are quite different. So please watch this demonstration, and then we continue to the more activities.
For the mass spectrometric analysis, in order to identify the proteins in a sample, peptides are required. For getting the peptides, the protein sample should be first digested. Protein digestion can be performed in a gel-free or a gel-based manner. We will show you how to perform the in-solution digestion, that is gel-free procedure. So now, after quantification, suitable volume of the sample is taken for digestion. Before doing the actual trypsin digestion, we need to process through the two steps, that is reduction and alkylation of proteins. For reduction, here we are using TCEP, that is tris carboxyethyl phosphine. Appropriate volume of TCEP is added. The sample is properly vortexed and spun. After addition of TCEP, that is the reducing agent, it should be incubated at 37 degrees for 1 hour. So after getting incubated at 37 degrees, the samples would be reduced. So after incubation at 37 degrees, reduction is happening. That means all the disulfide bonds are broken within the proteins. So now it's time to alkylate the sample. For alkylation, iodoacetamide is used. During the alkylation procedure, alkylation will block the thiol groups so that the disulfide should not be reformed. After this, the sample is properly vortexed and spun. To perform the efficient alkylation, the sample should be kept in dark for 10 to 15 minutes. So after completing the steps of reduction and alkylation, the next step is addition of trypsin for the digestion. So before that, the step is dilution, which means we first need to dilute the molarity of urea that was present in the initial sample. So the diluent is used for diluting the sample. Appropriate volume of diluent is added to the sample in order to dilute it. Before addition of trypsin, make sure that the pH is 8 so that it can work properly. Now the next step is the addition of trypsin that could be added in the ratio of 1:30 to 1:50, which means that one part of the trypsin can be sufficient for 30 parts of protein. The sample should be vortexed properly and spun. And finally, for optimum protein digestion, the samples need to be incubated at 37 degrees for around 16 to 17 hours. After 16 to 17 hours of incubation, the protein sample is completely digested, and then the sample is dried in order to get the peptide sample. These dried peptide can be taken further for mass spectrometry. For mass spectrometry, the peptide sample should be properly cleaned. To make sure that the sample is clean of various salts or other contaminants, the sample can be performed through the cleanup steps. For these steps, we use C18 columns. So these columns can be made using the C18 material within the tips. And then the sample is passed several times through the column. This column works on the principle of reverse phase chromatography. During several steps of passing the sample through the column, the peptides would be bound to the column, and then finally the peptide would be eluted. After the peptides are bound to the C18 column, they can be further eluted using different gradients of acetonitrile. And then the elutes is again vacuum dried, and the sample can be taken for mass spectrometry.
All right, I hope you have paid attention to some minor changes which we had from in gel versus in solution. If you are bringing your lysate from the urea method, I think you have to make appropriate dilution to that. And these are the important things which you have to keep in mind, especially also adjusting the pH 8 prior to adding the trypsin. So some of these things you are not doing, when you are doing the in-gel digestion, but you have to pay more attention if you are doing the in-solution digestion, because your protein is directly coming from some buffer. And that's why I showed this video again, because you can now get a better sense of these steps involved. After you have done the in-solution digestion, the trypsin digestion followed by vacuum drying and then doing the peptide quantification, all of that remains the same. So just to summarize the sample prep, especially peptide sample preparation part, I think that's really crucial. And I must say that, despite very trained people which we get at IIT Bombay here, still we face a lot of problem. Anybody who joins new to start with, to see that good peptide preparation part. And people run the sample in the mass spec and they are not able to see good data till they have done practice couple of times, because they will lose a lot of peptide at different stage, right? So it's really important for you to not just make one attempt and feel happy or disappointed about it, but rather try out with some standard proteins. Do digest them with both in gel and in solution. Try multiple times so that you can now run those samples. Let's say 5 different days you prepare your in solution digestion, in gel digestion. Let me tell you also a secret that whenever some new people come to our lab, we give them this kind of task to repeat those things several days and then run in the mass spec to find out how good reproducibility they can obtain. And you can see the kind of sequential increase, and then they reach to some level of saturation. So this is very important, and there's nothing like that there's a failure here, but you will get better. Protocols are simple, but how to conserve these peptides while doing the cleanup is really important, and you can save a lot of failures eventually. So peptide cleanup part, desalting, zip tipping, there are some commercial zip tips available which are very good to use. The different type of spin columns are available, but when you are using very active proteomics and lot of samples to be processed, then we also use these filter papers of C18 and we try to make our own zip tips as well. All of that is kind of just more cumbersome but more cost effective. Again, you can choose the way. If you are doing proteomics only for once in a while, some samples, good to go commercial way, spin columns, zip tips columns, and but do perform those steps, because you do not want any contamination or salt coming from your sample, which you have seen we ejected before lunch session, and that should not clog the column. These are very nano capillaries and nano LC what we are talking, so they should not clog your column. Columns are very costly, 1.52 lakhs cost, and you don't want to spoil them just with your one sample. So now I think the quantification which we showed will be very important part, because most of the time I'm sure all of you would have done protein quantification, but probably very few people would have done peptide quantification. And that's really important if you want to venture into the quantitative proteomics. The reason is that we feel that we are going to compare our control sample with the patient samples or test samples. And we are going to do label based fancy tags with iTrag or TMT tag or LFQ analysis, and we are going to see the differences in the proteins because of the biology or inherent disease nature of that. But many times what happens that your starting material itself is different. Although you can say, no, I have started with 50 microgram of my control sample, 50 microgram protein from the disease sample, and both of them I did digestion exactly same way, and then I have injected same amount of peptide, but I have no idea exactly how much I have injected. So now it is really important that you are going to go through the procedures at the same time, so that there is no variability in the processing step. But still at the end, you are going to quantify the peptide, and you are very sure that what is the peptide which you're going to label for the label based experiments or directly injecting them for the label free experiment. So this is the, I think, a second step of precision and quantification, which is more crucial than even the protein quantification part, because all the steps at the end you are reaching till peptide. So if you do that peptide quantification, then you are very much ready for quantitative proteomics, and that is going to give you more reliable data set. So I think with this probably you got some tips and some idea for the not only lysate preparation but also digesting the your protein to peptide forms and clean up the peptides, quantify them, and you have seen that we are going to inject those samples which we did just prior to lunch. So then after injection, what happens, how the data comes and about how to analyze the data. So let's check a little bit basics of the data analysis part, and then I will show you the actual data. So main thing is, think about at the biochemical level, what is happening. These are polypeptides which we have created after doing the digestion with the trypsin. And so what you see here, let's say this is the polypeptide with different amino acids. And with the collision energy, when you are doing collision, it's going to break these peptide bonds, CONH bonds, right? So here now you see there's one bond is breaking, other bond like that. So if this part is amino terminal, this is carboxy terminal. Now the ions which are generated towards the amino terminal are termed as the B ions. So this one is B1, this is B2, B3, and B4. The ones which are generated towards the carboxy terminal are starting from Y1 series here. So this becomes Y2, Y3, and Y4. So now for each of the fragmentation, you are generating B1 and corresponding Y4 or Y1 and corresponding B4. So when we are going to take our raw data from the mass spec, which I will show you, that when you start putting that for analysis using any software, and we will show right now to you Matrix Science mascot software analysis. So software is going to give you some output like this, that these are your major hits coming from your sample, what you analyze in the mass spec. And it shows there is some level of threshold here. Anything above this threshold, which is greater than 38 in this case, is only a confident protein hit. So this protein hit, which is almost more than 1200, is definitely going to be much more, relevant and a significant hit. So if I look at this particular first hit, that is actually score is 1225. And this protein hit comes from almost 31 peptides. So this is actually pretty good hit, because to identify this protein, the database what you have searched, you have 31 peptides from your data which have been used to search for this protein, and that's why your confidence level is very high and score is very high. Now then you get to see many of these peptides which you can further click on it and investigate further and find out what is the B and Y and series for these peptide, for each of these peptide, how good the fragmentation was. So now whatever I just talked theoretically is actually you can see them with the data analysis part. And now you'd like to locate yourself, okay, where is my Y1, Y2, Y3, like that. And you can see different Y ions. Now the difference of each of these two Y ions is corresponding to one amino acid. And so for instance, Y7 minus Y6 is going to give you difference of 57 here, and that is glycine. And then Y6 minus Y5 for 129 difference, that is a glutamic acid. So you are now going to see, okay, correspondingly for Y7 and Y6, I should have B1 and B2 ion series. So now that is giving me same difference. So glycine is the amino acid, first one. Like that for Y6 minus Y5, I'm going this series, and I'll be looking at the B series from here. So B2 minus B3 is also giving me same difference. So that is same amino acid. So now in this way, software compares the B and Y ion differences and gives you the peptide sequence, right? This is what happens in the back end with the software. So then you can very simply now derive the peptide sequence if we give you the monoisotopic mass of different amino acid, and we do give to our students in different assignments that table is given here, peptide the B and Y and fragmentation patterns are shown, and now you can try to derive the peptide sequence manually. So theoretically you can do these things yourself for few peptides, but if you have you are doing proteome void analysis, then you should not do that. Then you have to rely on the software algorithm to do it in more high throughput manner. So this is how you can derive these the peptide sequence. What you will find in reality that there are more Y ions which are more intense as compared to B ion, because we are using the trypsin enzyme in this case, which works on the C terminus, and therefore we are going to see more of the charged Y ions which are retained from the C terminal side. So now we've reached to this part of the workflow, and I showed you before lunch that we are going to inject our sample, and ideally we should acquire these kind of chromatograms, right? So let me skip this. Yeah, so now we are seeing some of these chromatograms which will be generated from the mass spectrometer. So after running the sample, what you see these kind of chromatograms. So this one sample has been run for 2 hours, right? And what you see is the intensity of this, which is relative abundance on the y-axis, and time, how much time we have run the samples. Although the current sample we are not running for that long, but these samples we have run for 2 hours gradient, because this is a complex sample which we want to separate well to know that thousands of proteins are present in that given sample. And mostly, for almost initial 15 to 20 minutes, you will see a very, a flat line, which is time, void volume, which it is coming and binding to the column, and then slowly it will start, eluting out. So that you always see this is flat, and then initially, start coming up, and then you have good peptide spectrum. Then you are eluting it out with 95% or so acetonitrile. The overall intensity you would like to monitor, which is e to the power 9, which is quite good. E to the power 9 or e to the power 10 is what you would look for. Another run here. In this case, overall it looks slightly flat, but because some of these peaks are very huge, that's why you see this flat. Otherwise, it's a good chromatogram. Good start, basic, stable baseline. Went through quite good Gaussian pattern, and then elution completed. Again, e to the power 9. Another sample, again because of one peak which is very high intense, you see it, but it's still quite a good Gaussian pattern, and again good intensity you can observe. This sample, again very good chromatogram, but intensity was not as great as the previous one, because the previous one you saw something like this. That's why it looked flat, but in this case there is no very huge peak, but overall intensity e to the power 8. So that is slightly less than the previous intensity. So you will see variety of these kind of pattern of chromatograms, which tells you a lot of stuff beforehand, even before you start your actual analysis. That is that going to give me good data or bad data. Many times you will see a very flat line, and you will not see good peptide coming out of it. We will give you more of these examples as we go along, but I'm just giving you idea that chromatogram, these black bushes, tells a lot, looking at their intensity and the profile, that how good my data is going to be, right? So now let's say what currently we are doing is a simple analysis right now, which is we want to analyze our mass spec data using MASCOT. And here the goal is to only look for the protein identification. So we are not looking at complex samples. Let's say you have done the 2D experiment or the gel-based experiment. You identified that a spot or band, and then now you have excised that, did in-gel digestion, run them on the mass spec, which is what we did in the session here. And now we want to analyze that data using matrixline.com. So let me take you to this data analysis thing right now. We have also given you a file, which I hope you have already got it from either email or in the WhatsApp group. Please save that. Don't do anything right now. Just save that file. I will show you here some steps from another file, and then you will try that data analysis from the file which we have given to you, right? And you will have time only 5 minutes to do that analysis. So you can see that proteomics is so fast and so simple, right? Imagine that you have sent your sample to us. We are running that sample here and sending the data back to you. And now you are analyzing your data, right? And you have to tell that what your proteins are. So I'm going to give you a brief demo of using MatrixLine, which is a very good open access software. You should definitely go and read more about it. I don't think I'll be able to explain completely right now in the short time. But when you go to mascot database search, you have multiple options here. One is for the peptide mass fingerprint, sequence query, MSMS ion search. If you are only looking at multi-top data, which we spoke once in a while in the morning, then you can use the PMF analysis, but preferably you should do MSMS work. So you should do MSMS ion search analysis. So now let's say we go perform search. But by the way, you can go through the tutorials, which is very informative. It has given you the detail for each of the field which I'm going to talk, what are their meaning, what are the parameter means, and how you should interpret those parameters in detail. So that will be your home assignment. Please go through these parameters and details from the software and try to understand each of these terms so that you are more comfortable understanding and interpreting your data sets, right? Right now, in the short time, we will just simply do perform search. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you from a different dataset file that how to perform analysis. So when you are doing analysis, you have to put, and it's a good idea to get ready on your system anyways with the same software, matrixscience.com. You have to enter a valid email ID. If you're using it first time, then it is going to ask you to validate your email ID. But otherwise, if you have used it, it will just simply, you can add your email ID here. Contaminant databases are very important and interesting thing. In all the mass spec experiments, you will have some contamination. Trypsin digestion will not be complete. You will have, let me share my screen again. Okay, please, somebody else is sharing. Please don't do that. Let me just complete my session and then we'll allow you to share and show what you're doing. If somebody excited and want to show this session, I think I'm also okay to that. All right, otherwise, please don't share the screen right now. Let me present. So contaminant databases, where when you are using your steps, you are bound to get some sort of contamination from keratin, right? Whether hair fall or with the skin touch. So those information as well as the trypsin which is unused, those will come in the mass spec as the contamination, right? And likewise, many known peaks are coming from your plastic tube and other stuff. So those are put in the contaminant database. And today I'm not doing SARS-CoV-2, so I'll just put the SwissProt database for the broad analysis. When you don't know your samples and you want to use SwissProt. Taxonomy wise, you can go all entries because you have no idea what your sample will be. Trypsin enzyme, in this case we have used trypsin. Allow up to 1 or 2 miscleavage. Preferably you should do 0 miscleavage because that is ideal. If you want to do any validation, you should do 0 miscleavage. Ideally what you are trying to say that your enzyme efficiency was very good and you are not expecting any cleavage to miss out. So then in that way it is 0, but let's assume there will be some enzyme inefficiency. So let's say 1 miscleavage. We are not doing quantification. Otherwise, when you will do iTrack or TMT or other things, you will have more options to select from here as well. We are not doing cross-linking, so only fixed modification. I'll just add this carbidomethyl and oxidation I'll add as a variable modification, but you can always use a variety of other type of modification like PTMs, and you can play with that and see like what is you see difference. I'll go with the basic default settings of peptide tolerance and MSMS tolerance. Charge state, it is the ESI QTOF data. So we'll go with 1 plus 2 plus and 3 plus charge states. It is a MGF file, so we can go mascot generic. Instrument type is most likely ESI QTOF, and we can also use decoy search. So I have to actually select a file now, so I have not selected a file. Let me go choose file, and I'll take one of this LCMS MGF file and start search. So as you can see, like, this is really very quick and fast, and because we are talking about very simple data file, which is for one protein, right? Like you have done in-gel digestion for a band or for a spot, and you are going to expect only 1 or 2 proteins from that, right? So what you see here that, this protein are coming as a main hit, which is some chlorophyll binding proteins in this case. And I was talking to you that, you have to look for anything beyond this box, which is in this case is greater than 45. Software has determined this is the threshold beyond which anything is going to be considered significant. There is no set guideline here that every time you have to choose 30 or 40 here. It is going to look at all the relative intensities and accordingly assign the threshold. Anything out of this this box is going to be only significant. So these are 3 significant hits, which we have seen on the top here in the chlorophyll binding proteins. So they're all same protein, they're coming from different species. So now let's say we want to first know more about this protein and want to look at this protein. So it is showing you that this data was searched from Sysprot. The score is pretty good, 410. Your threshold was around 40 or so. This protein is a plant protein coming from Arabidopsis thaliana. This is the protein sequence. And for searching this protein, all the peptides which are shown in the red color are coming from our data set, like whatever we got from mass spec. So the red ones are your data from the mass spec, and this is the peptide sequence which you are searching for. So you have very good confidence here, and you got almost 52% sequence coverage of this protein. And for doing that, you got these peptide sequences. These are unique peptides which were used for searching. And now you are more keen into knowing about these peptides, that how my data was looking. I spoke to you about some raw data and the B and Y ions. So here actually you can go and look for the peptide, those fragmentation patterns. And now what I'm showing you here, let's zoom a little bit. All right, so now what you are seeing here, series of Y ions which you can see, right, for this peptide. So how the software has determined this peptide, this is what we are trying to get now. So this peptide sequence which you see here has come from this data, right, this B and Y ions data. So now there are series of Y ions. As I indicated you already, you will get more Y ions intense overall, given the trypsin works on the carboxy side. So now what you are seeing, Y1, Y7, Y5, Y6, Y8, Y10, these kind of Y ions you are seeing, and those are red in the color, which shows the high intensity and significant ones. In this case, you could not get any good B ions. So all you are deriving your peptide sequences from only the Y ion series, right? But it will be a good idea that we should look for more peptides which are also showing as B ions as red, not only Y ions. So in this case, let us look at other peptide and see whether that looks good. This looks much better. In fact, this one has more of the Y ions and couple of B ions I can see as well. So let us go down and look at our data here. So I can see in the B ion series on the left side, there are several B ions which are actually red, right? And now if I there are quite a large data set here, and now there are many Y ions which are also red. So this is pretty good data, very good peptide sequence, because this peptide sequence is coming from very good fragmentation pattern, and that's why you see very long peptide. So yesterday when I was talking to you and Dr. Ravi Sadeswar was talking to you about database search with the peptide length and all, right? So now you can keep in mind that this is one of the peptide, right? If you look at only 5 amino acid of and you say this is a peptide, I want to search database, it is going to give you a lot of false positive. It is going to bind to show many proteins. But if you look at something like this, which is really humongous peptide, it is going to be very unique to that one protein, right? And so therefore the community guidelines are that we should use peptide at least 9 amino acid in length. That will be quite substantial length to give you unique peptide, and that should be at least 2 unique peptides to warrant that your protein search is good. So this protein search adheres to all the HUPO guidelines and the JPR guidelines of mass spec. Right now you have at least 5 unique peptides, and those are more than 9 amino acid length, and you can use this data for any kind of further claims and your analysis. So I hope you are now comfortable seeing that how you can take your mass spec data set, and you can analyze that very easily using Mascot, right? And again, Mascot search engine, what I have shown you is very beautiful, very simple, and anybody can use them without any commercial license. So now what I am going to suggest you is we have shared you one file. I hope you all got that file. Why don't all of you work on that file for next 5 minutes or so? Okay, I'll pause the screen here for 5 minutes. Please take your time, 5 minutes, do the analysis, and there will be some questions from that data in our today's quiz. So things are all going to be interlinked to each other. So you have to do that analysis, then only you can answer a lot of stuff from the from that analysis. I think somebody asked me a question for the How can we differentiate the small peaks from noise? See, I think, I showed you those Y ions and B ions, which are red in color, right? So the one which are really significant, those are going to be above the noise level. So, and that's why you see those intense ions, which are red in color, but not everything was shown in red. So those are above the noise level, and that's why those are being used for the confidently deriving your peptide sequences, right? But nevertheless, many of the things which you will have in your mind for the mascot, I showed you tutorial. Please go through that. I think this exercise cannot be complete if you are not spending 2 hours more in the evening every day. After doing all the hard work with us in the daytime, you have to also spend at least 2 hours in the evening to summarize whatever you have learned. And while we prepare all the report for you, you should also do some homework of reading these tutorials and going through the guidelines. We will upload you the protocols for in-gel and solution digestion. Please go through those in detail. We'll also share you these links, but you should at least go through the information so that you are aware of the terminologies. So we are running short of time. We have 3:30 another session, and also we have to show you a couple of more things right now. So I'm giving you 5 minutes time. 3:10 we will continue our session. Till that time, please analyze this mascot data file which we have shared with you. I hope everybody had access. If you do not have access for some reason, please raise your hand so that we know that some people do not have access. Otherwise, we are expecting all of you to have the data file available to you and you are analyzing it. In the quiz, there will be a couple of questions which will come from this data, what you are going to analyze. Dr. Ankush, you have some question? Or you have not got the file?
Yeah, we are not able to get the file. Actually,
file is shared in a Google Drive link in the WhatsApp group as well as in the email. There are 3 folders. Right now, you can just go to the mascot folder and just download one MGF file. All right. It will take only 2 minutes to analyze the data, but we are giving you 5 minutes. So 3:10 we will resume back, everybody. Okay.